It's our maiden voyage here in 2024. It's the Sam Shade Show, talking all about Miles College football as we go through this season, hopefully with a SIAC championship at the end. Hi, I'm A.A. Moore, and we've got the coach, the star of the show, Sam Shade, here in his third season. And, Coach, I know it's exciting when you get to this part of the season where you're not just practicing against each other. Now you get a chance to go and show what you've worked on.
Well, you're absolutely right, A.A. I tell you, it was exciting being out there on Saturday. Really close ball game, 1-point game right there, but it was still exciting to be there. It didn't go our way, but our guys fought hard.
Well, you have to get to a point before you even get out on the field. A lot of practice, a lot of recruiting. And we've talked about it before. You know, the first year was a little tight, and then last year you got a chance to finally get some recruiting done. This year, you know, we had to go back out on the road and get some reinforcements. Talk a little bit about the work you and your staff did to get this team together, at least in constructing your roster.
Well, obviously after the first year, there was a lot of work that needed to be done, and the coaching staff did a great job of hitting the road, going out recruiting high school kids, transfers, 2- and 4-year kids. Just wonderful job. The problem with that is you go out and you bring in some transfers. We had 9 graduates on this team last year, so we lost those guys, so had to hit the road again. You know, coaching staff hit the road again and, you know, brought in some pretty good pieces, and, you know, we feel like we've got some experience in some places that we needed it.
So you go through the spring, you get to the fall practice, you're working, you've got some positions to fill, especially at that quarterback spot. Talk a little bit about working through that process to determine who your signal caller was going to be when you got ready to hit the field against West Alabama.
Well, you know, that process actually started at the end of last season, you know, because we lost Klein Peter, who was the starter, and, you know, we said, look, you know, we felt like Cam Ivory was a guy that could get it done. You know, he started the last ball game of last season against Tuskegee, did a good job. We ended up winning that game. So we felt really good about him, but behind him we weren't real comfortable. So we went out and we brought in C.J. Dumas from Prairie View as a transfer, brought him in. Also brought in another transfer, a junior college transfer that came in to us, Brinley Vanderveer. And so we were trying to find some depth. We felt good about Cam, but really trying to find depth. And he did some really good things in the spring. Coming out of spring ball, he was our guy. We said, hey, if we had to play next week after spring ball, he was the guy. Wanted to get that depth behind him, and we feel really good about him.
And so you look at a lot of the other positions as well, Coach, and you've got some veteran guys coming back, guys that you've been able to lean on in the past who have got that experience. How comfortable do you feel with the guys that you have at the top of your roster?
Well, I'll tell you, offensively, obviously we've got some guys that played a lot of ball. Jay Andrews at receiver, all-conference guy last year, preseason this year. Trey Abner at tight end, all-conference tight end, played a lot for us last year. You know, you go to the offensive line, we got some guys there, Jason Stovall at guard, Christian Twyman at left tackle. Also, Connor Howard's played a lot of ball at right guard. But then we got some new guys up front. You know, we've got we've got Keith Williams playing right tackle, a redshirt freshman that's playing really well. And you get to the running back position, and that's the position where we feel like we've really got some guys that can get it done for us. Gennaro Scott is back this year. He played in the first 2 games last year as our starter, and because of an injury, he missed the rest of the season. And then we also have Jamari Riley, was a freshman last year, played a lot of ball for us from over in Columbus, Georgia. Excited about him, and I can kind of keep going down the list of some of those guys, but you know, we feel really good about, you know, those guys on offense, especially the experience that we have in a number of positions there.
And then you look on the defensive side of the ball, you've got a lot of guys up front who certainly garner a lot of attention, but you look again through all your starters and you've got guys back from a team that finished 7-3.
Yeah, we do. Our defensive line actually is the strength of that defense because, you know, we've got 3 starters back off that defensive line from last year, starting with JaMichael Rogers, wearing number 2 this year for us. Just excellent ball player at defensive end, makes a lot of plays, all-conference guy. Then Rock Dowdell on the other side at defensive end. They were the 2 starters last year, so it's good to get them back. You go inside, we get Zion Sharp back, who started last season. He finished the season banged up, you know, so we're hoping that he can stay healthy this year. But then we had to replace a pretty good player at the other defensive tackle. So we've got Javante Cooper is playing the other defensive tackle for us, a pretty athletic guy. And we get to the back end. The back seven is where we're not as experienced as we were before last year. We had 3 seniors playing in that secondary at the safety spots, and we lost all those guys. So we're young on that back end this year, but we've got some pretty good players back there.
Well, when you have a roster with a lot of guys who have a lot of experience, especially coming off a 7-3 season, I tell you, the thoughts of winning a championship are real high here at Miles, and we're going to start breaking down the first game against West Alabama when we come back here on the Sam Shade Show. Back here on the Sam Shade Show, and it's time to start talking the game against West Alabama. As you said, it was a 1-point loss, and I tell you, when you look at the things that happened in that ball game, especially as you consider the offensive side of the ball, how pleased were you, or what do you think got left or missed, especially when you consider it was just a 1-point game?
Well, you go to the stat sheet, and, we had almost 300 yards of offense. They had right at 300 yards of offense. Very even there when you start looking at it. But for us, we look at the things that we left out there. We felt like we left some plays out there in the passing game, maybe a catch here, it's another touchdown. There were some times we got in the red zone and, we didn't put it in the end zone, had to settle for a field goal at one point. So those are things we've got to work on. We've got to work on our red zone offense, scoring touchdowns instead of field goals. And we've got to complete those balls where I call them money balls, where we got a guy beat and all we got to do is just get it to the guy. And, we just got to be a little more consistent in some of the things we're doing. But for the most part, I thought our offensive line played well, especially in the passing game. I thought they gave us really good protection. West Alabama loaded the box on us big time. I mean, they brought 8 guys into the box and, they pretty much said, we're going to stop you guys from running. You're going to have to throw the ball. And they're a really good team. I mean, they've got some guys up front that are really good in that front 7 as far as the D-line, the linebackers, and they make it real tough for you to run the football on.
It looked like in the couple of opening series, you really were having trouble moving the ball, especially as you said on the ground. You went with Gennaro Scott early. It just was very tough sledding. But talk about his work coming into the season and what he was able to supply, maybe not necessarily in the game against West Alabama, but what you're going to be looking for from him going forward.
Well, Gennaro, he's one of those guys, he loves the game of football, man. I mean, he's just really passionate about it, puts a lot into it on and off the field. Obviously we wanted to get him loose a little bit more than we did in the ball game, but like I said, they were really stacking the box on him. But, he's our guy. I mean, he's a guy that can take it 80, he can run it up in there on 3rd and short, 4th and short, we're going for it. He's that guy we feel like can get those tough yardage. But, also we got Jamari Riley, who's our changeup guy. We think they're 2 different guys. Riley gets in there. He's more of that guy that hits it and he's going to break it and not going to get caught. He's that guy that can catch it out of the backfield for us and make guys miss, which he ended up doing that some the other night. He actually had some plays in the passing game that helped us also.
So as you looked at how that game started and you talked about how West Alabama was stacking the box against you, did that change what you all were doing? Did it cause you to get away from your game plan a little bit? Or were you ready for that particular contingency just in case they did that?
Well, you know what? It actually, I tell the coaching staff and the players, it's definitely a sign of respect, when people load that box up and say, hey, we feel like you guys are a tough physical team that can run the ball. So, we've got to load the box if we want to try to limit your running game. And they did that. So we expect to see a lot of that this year. And, I talked to the guys about, hey, we got to run it when they do put 8 up there. We've got to figure out ways to put hats on hats and run the football even when they do crowd the box. So that's something we'll continue to work on because I never want to have a defense dictate to our offense that, hey, you guys got to pass the ball and you can't run it. Because like you said, you know, we want to play championship football. And I tell the team all the time, championship football is played in December and when the weather's bad and that type of stuff where you might not be able to throw the ball. So you better be able to establish the running game and run it when you need to run it. And so we'll keep working on that.
And so we've talked running back, and we know you've got some great receivers, but you talked about Trey Abner right at the start of this show, and he had one of those big catches early in the ball game that really started to kind of loosen things up. Talk about his particular ability. Talk about that play a little bit that he made to be able to get open and kind of move the chains and kind of loosen things up.
Well, you know, Trey's one of those guys that we went out and got after that first season as a transfer. He was in the portal. He's a state of Alabama guy from Lynette High School, but great leadership, tremendous worker on and off the field in the classroom. I mean, he's that guy. He's one of the poster childs of our program. I mean, he's just a phenomenal guy that happens to have a lot of talent at the tight end position. He can block. He can do things in the passing game. You could almost play him like a receiver. So we're never surprised when he makes plays like he did in the game, like the corner route early where I think it was 3rd and 10, and, you know, we hit him on the corner route for the first down. But, you know, we're in the red zone, and we don't end up scoring a touchdown right there, but really good play by him to put us in position.
And because you had to go to the passing game early, it kind of really unlocks the kind of skills, the kind of abilities that Cam Ivory has, and being able to throw the ball, run the ball. Just talk about his dual threat ability.
Well, you know, first thing about Cam, I mean, he's a quarterback. He's a smart guy, really sharp guy. I mean, high football IQ, but off the field, you know, high academic guy, all those things from Ramsey High School right here in Birmingham. Actually was recruited by some Ivy League schools coming out of college. I mean, out of high school. So, you know, we feel like he can handle the things that we throw at him offensively. He can, you know, get guys lined up. He knows where he's got to go with the football. You know, the only thing with Cam right now is, you know, I told him, I said, look, you made some throws, but we left some out there. And, you know, we got to work on being a little bit more consistent, you know, with some of those throws. And he's going to do that. You know, he's going to take the time and work with his top receivers and, you know, work on making sure that instead of, you know, hitting 6 or 7 of 10, let's hit them all.
Right. And your receivers, they were getting open. Talk about those throws a little bit, though. Like you said, there were some that he just missed, but he also was able to at least have it close enough. You know, sometimes guys, they miss that completely. They throw it to the other team.
Well, you know what? It's all about just the timing and the chemistry sometimes. You know, our guys, we came in the end of July, started training camp, and I, you know, obviously I keep count. We had 29 practices before that first ball game. And so sometimes that's not enough to get exactly where you want to be in mid-season form or early season form. So I'm looking for a lot of improvement from game 1 to game 2 out of not just Cam and the receiving group, but a lot of guys on our team. We all know that we've got some guys that can play, to have a lot of ability, and, you know, we're looking for improvement from game 1 to game 2.
And Cam threw for 211 yards on Saturday night. One of those was a 41-yard touchdown pass that he threw to Frank Pierre. And talk about Frank a little bit. He beat his guy real good to get free for that touchdown.
Well, you know, Frank's one of those guys. He's a junior college transfer. And the one thing I'll say about our coaching staff, and we've talked about it, is that, you know, we're going to have some holes on our team every year where we need to bring in an experienced guy. You know, where a high school guy just isn't going to be able to come in and give us what a guy that's played college football can give us. And Trey Abner's been that guy. And Frank Pierre's been one of those guys. But the coaching staff does a good job of vetting those guys, bringing in guys that are our type of guys that are going to buy into the program, that have a great work ethic, that are going to really believe in what we're doing, trust the coaching staff, and just be hard work. And Frank's one of those guys. He's really close to what Trey Abner is as far as being that type of player, and he's got some tools. He's a Florida kid. He can run, South Florida kid that can run. He's big. He's got strong hands. You know, he made some catches in the ball game with guys draped all over him. And, you know, I like the fact that he wins those plays. And then he can run by you like he did on the touchdown play, the 41-yarder.
And another guy who's been big on this team and in this program is Jay Andrews. And, man, he made a couple of spectacular catches on the night against West Alabama that kept drives alive.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, man, Jay's Jay. Jay's been our top receiver, you know, since I've been here, and I've watched him grow and just keep developing. And he works. I mean, Jay, same deal. Jay works his butt off. Jay is one of those guys that is a great representative of our program. He just really is. And he actually was dealing with an issue. He had an injury issue during camp. I won't really elaborate on the injury, but he only had a couple practices last week. So, you know, and we weren't sure if he was going to be able to go. I'm glad he was able to go, but, you know, he was dealing with a little something, but got a couple practices in, started feeling good toward the end of the week, and end up playing. So that's the type of guy Jay is, man. Hey, you just got to get him to the game.
And you talk about having multiple guys able to step up. Jaquel Fells is a guy that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but, man, he came through clutch there with that touchdown in the fourth quarter that gave us the lead.
Another one of those guys, man. I mean, great on and off the field, excellent in the classroom. He's also a transfer. He's a guy that transferred in before last season. He had gone to a 4-year, went to a junior college for a year, and ended up – he's a local guy. He's from right here in Birmingham, east side of Birmingham, out in that Pinson area. And, you know, just brings a lot to our team, great work ethic. His game's a little different than Jay and Frank because he's a smaller guy. He's in that 5'8" range, but he's shifty and quick. Really good hands. He's our starting punt returner, does a really good job there. And all those guys, it's almost like you've got to find ways to make sure they're getting their touches. And that's what I like to say. A guy like, you know, like Fells, we got to get him a certain amount of touches. Abner, we got to get him a certain amount. Jay, a certain amount. Pierre Frank. And that's a lot of guys. But we got to find ways to get the ball to the guys that can do things with it.
Well, again, we had nearly 300 yards, or a little more than 300 yards total offense on Saturday night. Still left us a point short, but we're going to talk about that defense a little later on that kept us in the ball game till the end. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the man who's coaching the quarterbacks and getting them into position to lead Miles down this, hopefully, championship road. We'll come back with him, Ken Evans. You're watching The Sam Shade Show. Back here on the Sam Shade Show, I'm A.A. Moore, and before we break down some more of the game against West Alabama, we've got an outstanding coaching staff here at Miles College, and one of the new guys on the staff is our quarterbacks coach. His name is Ken Evans. And Ken, first and foremost, thank you and welcome to Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Glad to be here.
You have had nice journey as far as your career as a player, as a coach, and the things that you've done even before you got to Miles. You played your college ball at University of Memphis. Talk a little bit about that experience and being able to play on that particular stage.
Yes, sir. Yeah, coming out of high school, you know, finished through for over 10,000 yards in high school, 115 touchdowns, pretty much had scholarships, you know, anywhere, everywhere. Chose to stay home, played at the University of Memphis, played there 3 years, and you know, it didn't necessarily work out the way I, you know, thought it would have, man, and ended up transferring to Tennessee State. For my senior year, played at Tennessee State, and then, you know, got a chance to play a little arena football. And I played arena football for 8 years, and that was pretty much my playing journey, man. You know, high school in Memphis, at Westwood High School in Memphis, then went to the University of Memphis for 3 years, and then Tennessee State, and then on to arena ball.
So that particular experience, especially playing, again, you're playing Division I FBS, then you played FCS.
Yes, sir.
How does that help you as you are in your career now, especially at this point,
Yeah.
because you've got a chance to see a lot of stuff, and when it's time to impart those things, I'm sure those guys are listening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having a chance to play, at the University of Memphis, playing teams like Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Miami, Missouri, had a chance to play against some of the top tier teams in on that level, Division I level, and then going to Tennessee State, playing at Tennessee State, we played good teams like FAMU, Eastern Illinois with Tony Romo was playing quarterback there, Tennessee Tech, Southeast Missouri, playing some pretty good teams, and being on that level has really helped me, when I transitioned into coaching, man. So. Just grateful for those opportunities and, taking some of those lessons that I learned as a player and now being able to do it as a coach.
Did you ever think that you were going to be a coach, or was it in your mind when, even as your college career and even your pro career was starting to wind down, did you think, hey, I'm going to be coaching guys?
Not at all, man. When, as a player, you think you're going to play forever. Now, knowing that you get older, your bones start to hurt and, all those injuries start to catch up with you. So, but you think you're going to play forever. But, then you get to a point where you start to realize that maybe I need to transition into something different. Never thought I would have been a coach. That was not on my radar at all. As much as I love the game of football, never thought I would get into coaching. And so, coming towards the end of my career, I started substitute teaching in Nashville. And one of the coaches at the high school asked me to volunteer. Would I be interested in volunteer coaching? I kind of, brushed him off and told him, no, I wouldn't. Didn't want to have to deal with anybody else's kids. So I told him, I kept telling him no. Then it just got to a point to, he was coaching at a middle school, and he was like, hey man, come on man, let me I want to see, see if you can do this. And so I volunteer coached at a middle school and fell in love with it, man. I think we went 5-1. We were averaging like 28 points a game, and I was offensive coordinator for that middle school, and I was like, you know what, this may be what I want to do now that I'm, coming to the end of my football playing career. So that was pretty much what jump-started me into coaching.
And so you've been on a journey. You've coached at HBCUs. You've coached at other schools as well. Talk about that journey, because I know that's got to be tough moving from place to place as a collegiate coach.
It is, man. My first college job was at Valparaiso University in Indiana. That was in 2013. But I had been a high school coach. I coached high school football for a number of years before I got an opportunity to coach in college. And honestly, what made me want to pursue college was being at a high school that I coached at. We had so many coaches coming in the building, like, big name coaches from Utah, Virginia, coaches coming all over the place. And some of the defensive coaches, they would always ask me to get on the board and draw up, some of my favorite plays. And, I'm scheming against some of these coaches who are, Division I coaches. So I was like, you know what? If they're asking me these questions, maybe I should look into try to get into college. And that's what I did, man. I was just a resume sending fool and sent resumes everywhere. And, finally got a hit from Coach Dale Carson at Valparaiso. And gave me an opportunity to be the quarterbacks coach at Valpo and loved it. But just unfortunately, that job didn't last long because he was fired in November. So I got hired in April, started working in July, then I was let go in January of 2014. Then ended up going back to high school for a couple of years before I got my next college opportunity. So I was hungry because my first college opportunity didn't last long at all. So I was always just really trying to get back to the college level, man, because it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to or would have, liked for it to, only being able to coach for a few months before, I had to go look for another job on, come back to high school. So then I was fortunate enough to get back into college coaching in 2017 at Brevard College. One of my former coaches at Tennessee State, Coach Bill Collier, was named the head coach there. So I reached out to him. He offered me the job as his quarterbacks coach at Valpo. And I jumped on it. So I left the high school that I was at. I actually went back to my old high school in Memphis and coached for a year. Then I took the job at Valpo. So, at Brevard for that season. And, yeah, it's been kind of a journey since then. So that 2017 season, I was at Brevard as a QB coach, passing game coordinator. Then I left to go to Central Methodist in Missouri. So I was the quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator in Missouri at Central Methodist NAIA school. My good friend David Callaway was the head coach there, asked me to come be his offensive coordinator. So I ended up leaving Brevard to take that offensive coordinator job, which was my first coordinator job. And I was there for 2 seasons, and then I ended up leaving to go to Arkansas Pine Bluff. I was named the quarterbacks coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff in 2020. Of course, the COVID happened. Didn't play, but we ended up playing in the spring of 2021. And then 2021, after that season was over, the spring was over, I got hired as the offensive coordinator at Mississippi Valley. So I was there at Mississippi Valley for 2 seasons, and so yeah, that was pretty much been my journey, man, as a coach. And left Valley in 2022. Then I ended up actually volunteer coaching at Morehouse. So it was a pretty unique situation. I was a tight ends coach at Morehouse. So my first experience other than coaching quarterbacks was at Morehouse.
So you also had one other spot that you were at. You were at a quarterback a player
Yes, sir.
academy.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
And so how is that different coaching there as opposed to scheming things up for games and for plays like
Exactly.
that?
So I was working with this company called Jenkins Elite. I was out of a job, of course, for the year that I left Mississippi Valley, and was just itching to have an opportunity to do something. You know, I always wanted to be something football related. So I had a friend that was actually working with the company. He worked with me at Central Methodist in Missouri. He was my receivers coach there at Central Methodist, and he was working for the company. And they had an opening for Atlanta, and he called me, asked me would I be interested in it. I was like, hey, it's a no-brainer. I don't have a job at this point, so I would like to, continue to be around the game of football. So I ended up taking the job with Jenkins Elite, doing the quarterback training. So very different because I didn't get a chance to actually, watch film and scheme up anybody or draw plays, and that's what I love. And I didn't get the opportunity to do that, but just, teaching quarterbacks. I had kids from the age of 7 to, high school juniors that I was working with, and they still text me to this day to kind of keep me posted on how they're, doing since the season started. I thought that was a pretty dope experience to be able to have that, to actually just really focus and hone in on the quarterback skills that some kids are missing, man, because a lot of kids these days, they don't get actually proper teaching, when it comes to quarterback position. A lot of schools actually on the high school level, they just put athletes at quarterback, and I just tell them, hey, just go at it. But to have that opportunity to try to teach these kids, how to read defenses, how to take a proper drop, work on, mechanics, I thought that was a really, really good thing, and I enjoyed doing it. But I just wanted to get back to coaching football. So.
And now you're here at Miles,
Yeah, now
you
I'm
get
at Miles.
your opportunity to
sir.
coach at this level, and you've got quite a bit of talent in the quarterback room this year. Talk about coaching these guys up and getting them ready to go out here each week.
Yes, sir. It's just fortunate to to have this opportunity. I definitely thank Coach Shade and Coach Da. Actually, Da, we actually went to the same high school. He's a couple years younger than me, but we went to the same high school. So to be here, man, is definitely a blessing. I got 8 kids. I got 8 guys in my room as a quarterback spot, and of course, all are different, but they all bring something different. They all bring something different to the table, man. And but the one thing I love about the entire group is they're competitors. Everybody, they're competing for reps, even though they're, some of them know they probably won't get a chance to dress for the games, but they're always competing. They want reps. Again, iron sharpens iron. That's what they're trying to do. We're competing, in every drill, and it's been fun. It's been a blast so far to have those guys. Of course, we just finished camp and just finished playing our first game, but it's definitely been a blessing having those guys, and they're helping each other out. It's not any bitterness. They're all competing, but they're all helping each other too, though. So that's the one thing I like about the group that I got to. You'll see them sitting down with each other, eating lunch together. So you don't see any animosity. And sometimes you get that, in a group when guys want to play and guys want to start. But I don't see that from the guys at all, man. But I'm enjoying them, having the ball with these guys, and it's definitely been a blessing, man, to be able to get some of these guys that's coming from different backgrounds and different experiences, and trying to teach them, the game, and hopefully helping them get better. That's pretty much what I'm in it for.
Well, Coach, we're glad to have you here at Miles. I'm sure our quarterbacks are going to be much better as they move forward, just thanks to your tutelage. So we appreciate you being here and coaching our guys up, and we appreciate you being here on the Sam Shade Show.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
And when we come back, we're going to talk a little defense. Defense certainly did their job this week against West Alabama, and we're going to talk about it more when we come back. Back here on the Sam Shade Show, A.A. Moore. Coach, you're back, and we were talking with Ken. Ken's certainly an interesting guy. I'm sure you're glad to have him on your staff.
Very interesting guy, and glad to have him. I tell you, we lost our offensive coordinator who was our quarterback coach from the first 2 seasons I was here. Jamal Fobbs moved up to a Division I school, but when that happened, we were looking for a guy, obviously that had been a quarterback coach, and I was like, hey, if we're lucky, we'll get a guy that's played that quarterback position. And, Ken's played it at a high level. So, really excited about getting him here working with our quarterbacks.
Well, Ken certainly is doing a good job, and we talked about Cam Ivory and the quarterback room prior to the break, but now we're going to talk a little defense. And your guys, man, they really came to play against West Alabama. They only allowed one touchdown,
Right.
and while West Alabama moved the ball up and down the field, it was more of a bend but don't break. And then there were times where your guys were just really dictating the pace of that ball game.
They were. We talk each week, every game. We talk about stopping the run. That's where it starts for us. I'm a big believer. If you're going to play good defense, it starts by stopping the run. And people say, okay, well, what's the deal with that? Well, we want to make people one-dimensional. We want to dictate to you what you're going to have to do. We want you to feel like you've got to throw the ball, because then it allows guys like JaMychal Rogers, Rock Dowdell, and some of those other guys we've got up front to really just pin their ears back and get after the quarterback in the passing game. And it helps you in the secondary when you know what's going to happen, especially if you're a linebacker or safety that's involved in the running game. Well, if you know they got to pass, now you only got to play pass. So that's a big deal with us is being able to start by, playing the run. And we felt like we did a really good job with that. You look at the stat sheet. It was a little higher than we wanted, but they really made a conscious effort to keep running the football. It was just one of their deals coming into the ball game.
So in that first quarter, in that first half, you talk about JaMychal, and JaMychal got off to a great start last year, had a bunch of sacks early on. You're playing Division I teams,
Right.
and teams start scheming for him, so that certainly is happening. But this year, again, he's a guy that teams have to look out for, and yet in the first half against West Alabama, 6 tackles, a sack, and he was not just getting it done on pass plays, he was getting it done against the run. Talk about his ability to kind of play both kinds of football.
Well, that's the thing about JaMychal. First off, obviously he's a very athletic guy at that defensive end spot. He's explosive coming off of the football. He's got we call great BGO ball get off. He really gets off the ball. And in the running game, he plays with great leverage. He doesn't get too high, where guys can get under his pass and get movement in the running game. He really gets low and kind of slithers through in the running game as you watch him. Just, he's got a lot of natural ability.
And your defensive unit as a whole, they gave up 10 points. You're down 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, but really it could have been a lot worse, especially you had the block punt there on that opening drive or on the second drive, and yet you kept them out of the end zone on that. Talk about your unit's effort and being able to keep West Alabama out of the end zone.
Well, one of the things we talk about, obviously, we always want to start fast on both sides of the ball, but we also talk about there's going to be some adversity in the ball game. Things are going to happen. You're going to have a negative. Something's going to happen, but what's your mindset going to be? So after that block punt, I thought our guys went out there with a great mindset on defense, and they got to stop. They limited West Alabama to a field goal when they had the ball around the 10-yard line, and some defenses would have gone out there upset because, we got a punt block, that type of stuff. But no, they went out there like, hey, this is our job to stop these guys. Doesn't matter where they get the ball at, we got to stop them. And that was the mentality that I saw of our guys at that point in the game.
And William Hardy, he's playing linebacker for you. He's been around for a while. Man, he had a great ball game. 10 tackles, 4 of them solo. He had 2 sacks, and probably the hit of the ball game where he came around on the back end and got the sack and the strip sack. And talk about that play in itself, because, man, he had to make up a lot of ground on that play.
Well, the first thing about Hardy, he's a local guy right here, Ramsey High School. He's a smart guy, actually presidential scholar guy. So a lot of knowledge. Thing with Hardy, he's probably in the best shape he's been in since I've been here. And that's one of the things we've harped on with him is, hey, man, in order to really play at a high level and be a top player, you got to be in shape first. And he's done a really good job of working on that. And myself, Coach McKinnon actually does a great job with those guys of getting them ready to play. But the big hit on the quarterback, that was huge. And if you go back and watch it, JaMychal Rogers had something to do with that, because the quarterback was trying to roll out to their sideline, and he basically made him pull it up and stop, and Hardy's just playing hard and comes in there, helmet comes off, ball gets to flying, we recover it, big momentum play for us on defense. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you, especially as a defensive guy yourself, you see a play like that, what
loved
does it do to your sideline? Because it looked like everybody went bananas right after that happened.
they did. I mean, I'm sitting there watching the game film, and I love when I see that game film and the whole sideline is excited and everybody's into it. I could even see the fans into it, which, I got to say this about our fans, man. They travel well. Our stands were full. Matter of fact, there were some stands in the end zone that I looked over there and I saw a bunch of Miles people in the stands in the end zone. So, man, that's awesome when our fans are there and they come deep and they into it and excited and pumped up. And that's what was going on. In the fourth quarter, it was like a heavyweight bout in the fourth quarter. It was back and forth, and our fans were right there into it.
Right, and that strip sack, it ended up leading to 3 points in the third quarter. It knocked their quarterback out of the game.
Right.
Changed the things that they wanted to do. Also, you had another big play on defense. Cam Williams, Mr. Primetime. At least that's what he tells me. He says, Mr. Primetime, Cam Williams. He wants me to make sure everybody knows. But he made a great play after you all had to punt football, and it led directly to points. Talk about his play on the outside.
Well, Cam, he started for us at corner last year. He was another transfer, a kid that transferred in from Faulkner. Actually, he transferred in as a walk-on and, played so well that we actually ended up giving him some scholarship money. And, he's a competitor. He competes. He's not the biggest guy, but, he really went out there and competed on Saturday. Now, they might have made a play or two on him, but they had some good receivers. And I tell our players, hey, they got coaches too. So just like you got coaches, they got coaches, and they're looking for ways to attack us. But Cam stepped up when we needed him to. That was a huge interception that he had. Just did a really good job in coverage. And also both corners. Malachi Ogden, he did some good things. Actually showed up in the running game and made some good tackles. One was like a tackle for a loss, one at the line of scrimmage. I was really proud of our guys defensively, offensively. I just thought we went out for the first ball game and we fought. We never gave up. We kept fighting. Even when we were down 10-0, we kept fighting like we'd been there. And we always talk about that. And, and I told them, I said, look, you got nothing to hold your head down about, nothing to feel bad about. And I took ownership in that. I feel like there's some things that we could have done special teams-wise. There's some things, both sides of the ball, some situations we could have put the players in that probably would have gave us just that little bit more that we needed to win the game. And I take ownership in that.
Well, that last drive, they got the ball. It was 4.5, a little more than 4.5 minutes to go. And they just ground it out where the guys maybe a little tired. You talked about after the game, it was humid, it was warm out there. They actually put some fresher guys out there. They were running a running back who really hadn't played much at all during the ball game, and they just went to the replacement quarterback, and they just kind of went to some newer guys, and they just were able to get down the field on us.
Right. I mean, you're right about that. But, at the same time, we had our opportunities. For instance, they got the ball at midfield. It's 4th and 2. We're up 15-13, 4th and 2. Our defense has a great stop, big momentum play in the game. I felt like, okay, now we're going to run this ball, and we're going to run some clock, and we're going to get it done. Then we go out on offense, and, we have, 2 penalties pre-snap in a row, and we end up 1st and 20. When we should have been 1st and 10 and handing the ball off. But, those are the type of things that we got to go out and clean up offensively. And those things happened in the first game. I thought that, once we got past the first half, first quarter, that we probably would settle down and, wouldn't have those type of things happen to us in the ball game. And then, we come back out after that. We punt the ball. And this is kind of, to me, how the game went, because we still had an opportunity to pin them on what we call a sky punt, where we put that ball inside the 10 and get it covered. Did a good job of that last year. And, we don't get the punt that we want. It's inside the 20, but I'm greedy, man. I want it inside the 10. So, we didn't get that. And then defensively, we come out and we've got opportunities, and, they just – and they did some things. You got to give them some credit. They actually did some things that last drive that they hadn't shown. They did some things with the quarterback running, with the tight end blocking for him, and we didn't quite fit some things up right there. Those are some things that, we know we got to work on. There's some things in the passing game they did, with the running back that kind of got us a little bit caught up at the backer spot. So I tell the team all the time, their coaches get paid too. That's part of it, and we've got to learn from it. It's a loss for us, but I talk about those losses being lessons, and we spent time today watching that film and making the corrections. And it was Monday. I call it move ahead Monday. Let's move ahead. Let's move on. Let's move on Monday.
Well, we'll move on to next week's game. You've got Alabama State on the schedule, and you've played the teams that you've led in there. You've played them very well. It was a one-possession game where you had the ball the first year you were here. Last year, you pulled off the big upset, first win in school history against Alabama State, and now you're making another trip down there again, and I'm sure the target's going to be on your back. No one's looking past Miles this week.
No, not at all. Not at all. Had a chance to watch Alabama State actually yesterday. They played on Sunday. Played against a really good North Carolina Central team, and they came out. Central actually ended up winning the game, but it was a really close game. You look at the stats. Alabama State actually had more yards in the ball game offensively than Central did, and it was really close on the stat sheet. But there were a couple plays that hurt them also. They had a blocked punt in the game. They had one of their punts blocked. So that game could have went either way. I mean, they're a good football team. And I said it last year. After the game last year, I said they're a really good team. They're going to bounce back, and they did. I mean, they ended up having a really good season after our game. But I'll say this, I felt like we had a really good football team that we took down there last year. We were healthy. We talked about all those experienced guys that we had, those 9 graduates that played for us. We're not going down there with the same team that we had last year, but, we're going down there to leave it all out on the field. I tell my guys, we got to go empty the tank every Saturday. Whatever you got, leave it out there on the field, and no matter what happens, you can feel good about what you put out there.
Well, they're going to empty their tanks. We want you to fill your tank and make sure you get in your vehicle and drive down to Montgomery. Kickoff's at 5 o'clock at the ASU Stadium. You can purchase your tickets. Purchase them through us. They've got enough tickets. Purchase them through Miles. Go to milesgoldenbears.com where you can find out how you can buy tickets for that game on Saturday. Also follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, or I guess they call it X now. We're on X. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Golden Bears of MC, where you can keep up with everything that's going on with the Sam Shade Show and with Miles College Football. We'll be here every week after each game talking with Coach about Miles College Football, and we want you to be here with us. So, again, for the coach, the man whose name's on the show, Sam Shade, and I'm going to mess that up 40 times, but I'm going to get it right today. Sam Shade, I'm A.A. Moore, and we thank you for joining us on the Sam Shade Show.